My girlfriend said, "He's more successful than you. That's just reality." I didn't argue and let her go without a fight. Months later, she tagged me in a post saying, "I made a huge mistake, broken heart," under my viral success story. "He's more successful than you. That's just reality." She said it so calmly, not with cruelty, not with heat, just that quiet, matter-of-fact tone people use when they're stating something they've already decided is true. Like telling you it's raining outside. Like you're too blind to look out the window yourself. I didn't yell. I didn't beg. I didn't even try to argue. I just looked at her, really looked at her. And for the first time in 3 years, I saw exactly who she was underneath all the warmth I'd spent so long projecting onto her. And I let her go. No fight. No last-ditch speech. No dramatic door slam. Just silence, and then an ending. What I didn't know then, what I couldn't have possibly imagined, was that 9 months later, a notification would pop up on my phone at 2 in the morning. She had tagged me, in a comment, under a post that had 2 million views. I made a huge mistake, broken heart. And the post she tagged me under? It was my story. I need to back up. Not far, just far enough so you understand what was actually happening in the months before that conversation. I was 26. Brooke was 25. We had been together for 3 years and 4 months. Not that I was counting, but she used to be. She used to be the one who remembered every anniversary, every small milestone, every date that mattered. Used to. We met the way most people my age meet. A mutual friend, a backyard party, a conversation that went 3 hours longer than either of us expected. She was funny in a way I hadn't encountered before. Sharp, quick, the kind of humor that snuck up on you before you realized you were already laughing. I fell first. I fell hard. And for 2 years, everything was good. Not perfect. No relationship is, but genuinely, solidly good. Then I made a decision that shifted everything. I left my stable marketing job to start my own creative consultancy. Not a massive leap, not some Silicon Valley moonshot. Just me, my laptop, a small list of clients, and an idea that I believed in more than I could properly explain to anyone, including her. The first few months were rough. I'm not going to pretend otherwise. Income was inconsistent, hours were brutal, and there were weeks where I was eating peanut butter sandwiches for lunch because I was reinvesting every dollar I made back into building the thing properly. Brooke was supportive at the start. She said the right things. "I believe in you. It's just temporary. You're the hardest worker I know." But words have a shelf life, especially when they aren't attached to a genuine belief, just to a version of the situation the person hopes will resolve itself quickly. 3 months in, the tone started to shift. Small things at first. The kind of things you notice but convince yourself aren't actually patterns. A comment about me still working at midnight. A sigh when I had to cancel dinner because a client deadline moved. A look she gave me when her friend asked what I was doing for work now, and I explained. That flicker, barely a second, gone before I could name it. But I noticed. I always noticed. I just told myself I was reading too much into it. That was my first mistake. If you enjoy real stories like this, subscribe, because what happened next changed everything for me. His name was Qley. Brooke worked at a mid-sized financial consulting firm downtown. Qley had joined their team around month 4 of my transition period, transferred from a regional office, brought in to head a new department, the kind of guy who arrives with a reputation already attached to his name. She mentioned him casually the first time. "There's a new senior director starting Monday. Everyone's excited. Apparently he turned around the Dallas office in under a year." I said something like, "Nice," and went back to the proposal I was drafting. I didn't think about it. Why would I? The second mention came 2 weeks later, when she came home from a team dinner. Qley picked up the tab for the whole table. Didn't even blink. I remember looking up from my laptop. "That's generous." "He's just like that," she said, and there was something in her voice I still can't fully name. Not attraction, not quite. More like admiration that hadn't yet figured out what shape it wanted to take. I closed my laptop and suggested we watch something together. She said she was tired. We hadn't watched anything together in weeks. The comparisons started in month 5. Subtle ones, deniable ones. The kind that come wrapped in observation so that when you flinch, you look like the unreasonable one. Qley bought a condo in Westfield. Isn't that area insane right now? 3.2 million, apparently. Qley just got back from Tokyo, his 3rd international trip this year. Qley drives one of those new, all-electric SUVs. The matte black ones. He let me sit in it. The interior is unreal. Each one landed like a stone dropped in still water. Not violent, just rippling. I didn't say anything the first few times. I'm not wired to be defensive, never have been. But eventually, even the most patient person in a room starts to hear the message underneath the message. One evening, I finally asked her directly, "Do you have feelings for him?" She looked at me like I'd accused her of something ridiculous. "He's a coworker. I'm just saying he's done well for himself." "I know. I'm asking if you have feelings for him." She walked out of the kitchen. That was her answer, whether she meant it to be or not. The night it actually happened wasn't dramatic. That's the part nobody tells you about real endings. They rarely look the way they do in movies. It was a Tuesday. I remember because I had just wrapped a call with a new client, a small but promising contract, the kind that felt like momentum building, and I was still riding that quiet high when she got home. She walked in, put her bag down, and didn't say hello. She went straight to the fridge, poured a glass of water, and stood with her back to me. "You okay?" I asked. A pause. "I've been thinking." I set my pen down. There is a specific tone that phrase carries when it comes from someone who has been quietly retreating from you for months. "Thinking about what?" She turned around. She'd been crying, I realized. Not recently, but sometime earlier in the day. Her eyes had that faint, dried-out look. "About us. About where this is going." I didn't say anything. I've learned that silence is the most honest response to a speech that has already been written. You quit a stable career to chase something that hasn't paid off yet. And I've been patient. I have been, but I don't know how long I'm supposed to wait for things to get better. "They are getting better," I said. "Are they?" She tilted her head. "Because from where I'm standing, it's been almost 6 months and you're still working 18-hour days and still barely making what you made before. Building something takes time. I've told you this. Cole built an entire department in less time." There it was. Not wrapped in an observation this time. Just out in the open, direct and unadorned. Cole isn't building something from scratch. He's managing an existing infrastructure with a team and a budget in. "I'm not trying to start a fight," she said. And she said it so tiredly, so flatly, like she was doing me a favor by stopping me mid-sentence. "He's more successful than you. That's just reality." She didn't say it cruelly. That's the part that still sits with me strangely. There was no venom. Just certainty. Just someone telling you what they've already accepted as fact. And that's worse in some ways. Cruelty you can push back against. Calm certainty just stands there and dares you to try. I looked at her for a long moment. I thought about all the things I could say. I could have explained the difference between a director's salary at an established firm and an entrepreneur's first year building something from nothing. I could have reminded her that 6 months is not a reasonable timeline to judge the arc of a life. I could have told her that what she was doing, comparing me to a man she was clearly beginning to want, wasn't honest feedback. It was a justification. I didn't say any of it. "Okay," I said. She blinked. "Okay. Yeah. Okay." She stared at me. I think she expected a fight. I think she had prepared for one, maybe even wanted one, some last attempt to get me to prove I cared by competing. I wasn't interested in competing, not for someone who had already placed their bet elsewhere. "So that's it," she said. "You're the one telling me I'm not enough?" I said. "I'm just agreeing that we should stop." A long silence. Her face moved through something complicated. Relief, guilt, a flash of something that might have been regret, but hadn't fully formed yet. "I'm sorry," she said. "I know. I meant it. I wasn't angry. I was just done." She was out of the apartment by the weekend. We weren't living together officially. She had her own place, but she had accumulated years' worth of presence in my space. A drawer that was hers. Books stacked on the shelf she had claimed. A coffee mug she'd brought over in month 2 and never taken back. I boxed it all up carefully, left it by the door with her key on top. She picked it up while I was on a client call on Saturday afternoon. I didn't go to the door. She didn't knock. That was that. My best friend, a guy named Ben, called me that night because he'd heard through the circle. "She really said that? He's more successful than you. That's just reality?" Word for word. "Man." A pause. "You okay?" I thought about it genuinely before I answered. "Yeah," I said. Surprisingly. "You're not just saying that." "I'm not just saying that. I'm sad. But I'm not broken." "Good," Ben said. "Because she's an idiot." "She's not an idiot. She just wanted something I couldn't give her at the exact moment she wanted it." "That's very evolved of you." "It's also just true." We talked for another hour about nothing important. Video games, a show he was watching, whether the new burger place near my office was actually worth the line. Normal things. I needed normal things that night. Here is the part people expect to be a montage. The protagonist nursing a broken heart, staring out rain-streaked windows. then suddenly transforming through a series of meaningful life changes backed by an inspirational soundtrack. That's not what happened. What happened was much quieter and also much more grueling. I woke up the next Monday and worked. Not to prove anything. Not fueled by heartbreak or revenge motivation or any of the cinematic stuff. Just because I had something I was building and it still needed to be built. The breakup didn't change the plan. It just removed one of the voices that had been quietly telling me the plan wasn't valid. That, I realized, was its own kind of relief. I started sleeping better almost immediately. Not because I missed her less. I did miss her, some version of her, the earlier version, but because there was no longer a low-grade tension running through the background of my days. That tension of knowing someone in your own home had stopped believing in you, but hadn't said so yet. It's exhausting to carry that without knowing you're carrying it. Month 7, my month 7 of the business. Month 1 of being single, something clicked. Not dramatically, more like a combination lock that you've been trying for months, and one day, all the dials just line up. A piece of content I had created for a client. A brand storytelling video, stripped down, emotionally honest, no corporate gloss, got shared by someone with a significant platform. Then shared again. Then covered by 2 marketing newsletters I had been reading since before I started the company. Within 72 hours, that single piece of work had been seen by more people than had seen anything I'd ever made. My inbox became a different place. Inquiries from brands I would have considered completely out of my reach 6 months ago. Speaking invitations. A podcast request. A journalist who wrote for a publication I had read every week for 4 years asking if she could profile me. I sat with that email open for about 10 minutes before I responded. Part of me wanted to laugh. Not a bitter laugh, just the genuine absurdity of timing. Because 6 months ago, I was eating peanut butter sandwiches and being told I was less successful than a man my girlfriend worked with. And now a journalist was asking to profile my company. The profile ran 6 weeks later. I'm not going to describe it as some watershed cultural moment. It wasn't. But it was solid journalism. She captured what I was actually trying to do with the company. Not just the success angle, but the philosophy behind it. Why I believed brand storytelling had been overproduced and underhumanized, and why stripping it back to something honest was actually the more powerful approach. People responded to it. The article was shared, argued about, praised, criticized, all the things that mean something actually landed. The comments were mostly good, some were skeptical, a handful were the usual internet noise. And then, on the 3rd day after the article published, Ben called me. Not to congratulate me. He called in that specific way that means he has information he's not sure how to deliver. Hey, so, something happened. What? Brooke commented on the article. I felt nothing for about 2 seconds. Then I felt something I couldn't quite name. Not anger, not satisfaction, not excitement. Just a complicated quiet. What did she say? I'll just send you the screenshot. He did. I looked at it for a long time. She had commented under a shared version of the article that one of our mutual friends had posted. The comment said, "Wow, I had no idea." 5 words. And then, 3 hours later, in the same thread, after other people had responded, I made a huge mistake. No emoji yet. That came in a separate post she made on her own profile the next morning. She had shared the article directly. She had written a caption, and at the end of the caption, after talking about how she had recently lost someone special and didn't realize what she had until it was gone, she tagged me. I made a huge mistake, broken heart. 47 people had already commented by the time I saw it. Half of them were sympathetic to her. Half of them were telling her exactly what she deserved to hear. Let me tell you something real. When I saw that tag, my first feeling wasn't triumph. I want to be honest about that because the triumphant version of this story is easier to tell and also less true. My first feeling was grief. Not fresh grief, not the raw kind, but the older, more settled kind. The kind that says, look at what this could have been, and look at what it became instead. I thought about the version of us from 3 years ago, at that backyard party, talking until midnight about things we cared about. I thought about the way she laughed at my jokes before she started measuring me against other people. I thought about what it would have meant, what it might have changed, if she had stayed in that earlier version of herself. Then I put the phone down, made coffee, opened my laptop, answered 17 unread emails. She messaged me directly 2 days later. Not through the tag, a private message. Long. The kind of message that takes genuine time to write. I'm not going to share the whole thing because some things aren't mine to broadcast, even when I'm the one who was wronged. But the core of it was this. She had made a mistake. She knew it. She had let comparison and impatience override what she actually had, and she had confused a co-worker's surface-level status with genuine compatibility. She said Cole turned out to be significantly less impressive than his job title suggested, and I noted she said this not with the same certainty she had used about me, but with the embarrassed tone of someone reporting a bad investment. She asked if we could talk. She said she missed me. She said she believed in me. Present tense, said deliberately, like she knew I would clock the difference from how she had talked before. I read it twice. Slowly. Then I typed my response. This is the part of the story where you might expect one of two things. Either I took her back, the full forgiveness arc, the romantic reconciliation, or I sent a scorched earth reply designed to hit every soft spot. I did neither. I wrote, I appreciate you saying this. Genuinely. And I don't doubt that you mean it. But the thing you said to me that night, he's more successful than you. That's just reality. That wasn't something you said in anger. You weren't reacting. You weren't lashing out. You said it calmly. Like it was just a fact. Like I was just a fact. That's not something I can unhear. Not because I'm angry. I'm actually not. But because it showed me something about how you see people. How you see value. And I need to be with someone who sees mine differently. I hope you're genuinely okay. I mean that without sarcasm. Take care of yourself. I reread it once. Sent it. Closed the app. Ben read it when I showed him the next day. He didn't say anything for a moment. Then, that's the most mature breakup message I've ever seen. Is it? It's also devastating, just so you know. Yeah, I said. I know. We sat with that for a second. Did she respond? She said, I understand. I'm sorry. And then she said I was right. Ben nodded slowly. Good for her, actually. Yeah, good for her. And I meant it. Here's what I want to talk about. The thing that actually matters, past the drama and the tag post and the public moment. In the months between that Tuesday night when she walked out and the morning the article published, something had shifted in me that had nothing to do with her. See, when she left, I had two choices about how to process the reason she gave. I could carry it. The weight of being told I wasn't enough. Not enough yet. Not fast enough. Not successful enough. Not impressive enough to be worth the patience the moment required. Or I could set it down. Not forget it. Setting something down isn't the same as pretending it never existed. But I chose not to let it become the story I told myself about myself. Because here's the thing about being compared to someone else's version of success and being found lacking. It only damages you if you agree with the framework. If you believe that a $3.2 million condo and a matte black electric SUV and a flashy job title are the correct measurements for a person's worth, then yeah, losing that comparison feels like proof of inadequacy. But I didn't believe that. I had never believed that. And stepping away from a relationship where those were the measurements being used, that wasn't a loss. That was a correction. What I haven't told you yet, what I've saved for here, because it reframes everything that came before, is that Cole and Brooke lasted approximately 4 months. Ben told me, not with glee, he's not that kind of friend, but with the quiet gravity of someone reporting a thing that turned out exactly as expected. Apparently, he was already seeing someone back in Dallas, Ben said. Long distance thing. Never mentioned it. She found out through a mutual colleague. I absorbed that. She okay? I think so. She's got her people around her. I nodded, even though he couldn't see me. She picked someone who looked impressive, I said, more to myself than to him. She picked the shiny thing, Ben said. Yeah. And here's what I will tell you honestly. I did not feel vindicated. I know that's what the story seems to be building toward, the satisfying click of karma closing the loop. But it didn't feel like that. It felt like watching someone get hurt in a way they didn't need to get hurt, by someone they didn't need to trust, because they had let a false measurement guide their choices. That's not satisfying. That's just sad. The company had 12 employees by month 14. Not a massive team, lean, intentional, exactly the size it needed to be. We had turned away 3 clients that quarter because they weren't the right fit for what we were building, which is a kind of decision you only get to make when you've built enough of a reputation that you have options. I had options now, in more ways than the professional one. I dated someone briefly, a woman named Audrey, a landscape architect I met through a friend of Ben's, and it didn't turn into anything long-term, but it was genuinely good while it lasted. She was the first person I'd been with who asked questions about my work out of actual curiosity rather than an assessment of whether it was productive enough. It's a different experience, being with someone who is interested in your mind rather than your income. I hadn't realized how much I'd been starved of that. The viral moment came in month 15. Not the article. That was the first ripple. The actual viral moment was a short video I posted on my own channel. Not a brand campaign, not client work, just me talking directly to a camera in my office about the thing I had learned in the worst professional year of my life. I didn't plan to post it. I recorded it at 11 at night because I had been trying to articulate something in a proposal and couldn't find the words, and I figured talking it through out loud might help me access whatever was stuck. I watched it back. It was raw, not polished, not scripted, just honest. I posted it without overthinking. I went to sleep. I woke up to 7,000 views. By noon it was 90,000. By the end of the week, it had been shared across platforms and translated into 4 languages, and a podcast I respected had dedicated half an episode to discussing it. The comments were the part that genuinely got to me. Not the ones that praised me personally. Those are pleasant, but they slide off. The ones that stayed were from people who said, "I needed to hear this when I was in the middle of it and couldn't." That's the thing about an honest moment. It doesn't belong to just you once you release it. It becomes something other people carry. That responsibility felt good. It felt right. And under that video, the one with 2 million views by the time I'm telling you this, is where Brooke left her comment. A mutual friend of ours had shared it. And Brooke, who still followed that mutual friend, had seen it in her feed. I didn't know she had commented until Ben texted me with 3 question marks and no other context. I opened the app, found the share, scrolled to the comments, and there it was. I made a huge mistake, broken heart. And the tag, my handle, right there, public, under 2 million views. My notification had already started filling up. People were responding to her comment. Some with empathy, some with the internet's characteristic lack of mercy, some tagging their own friends with "don't be this person." I looked at it for a long time. Then I closed the app, and I did something that I think was the right thing, even though it might not be the satisfying thing. I didn't respond. Not publicly, not privately, beyond the message I'd already sent when she first reached out. I let it be what it was. A person recognizing their own mistake in the open air. The acknowledgement wasn't for me. It wasn't about me getting the satisfaction of being proven right. It was her processing, her reckoning. And I had enough respect for her, enough left over from 3 years and 4 months, to leave that space alone. There's a conversation I had with a mentor of mine, a man in his late 50s named Gerard, who had built and sold 2 companies before I was old enough to drive, that I think about a lot in the context of all of this. I had lunch with him about 2 weeks before the video went viral. We were talking about the early days of building something, and I told him about the breakup. Not the whole story, just the shape of it. The comparison. That's just reality. The decision not to fight. He listened without interrupting, which is rare and is one of the things that makes Gerard exceptional. When I finished, he was quiet for a moment. Then he said, "The people who leave at the wrong time always come back at the wrong time too." I asked him what he meant. "She left when you needed belief," he said. "If she comes back, it'll be when you no longer need it. And that's too late to be useful." He said it without judgment, just observation. But it lodged somewhere important. Because he was right. Not in a bitter way. In the way that real things often are, just accurate, just true. By the time she tagged that post, I had found belief from every direction I needed it. From clients who kept coming back. From strangers who shared my work. From Ben, who showed up every time. From Audrey, briefly but genuinely. From Gerard, and others like him. From myself, most importantly. The slow, painstaking process of trusting yourself when nothing external has confirmed your trust yet. That's the period she didn't stay for. The period that turned out to be everything. I want to be clear about something. This isn't a story about how I won and she lost. I want that on the record. Because I've seen these kinds of stories get weaponized into a simple score. Look how much better I'm doing. Look at what she gave up. Look at her regret. That's not what this is. Brooke is a person who made decisions shaped by her own fears and her own unexamined assumptions about what success was supposed to look like. She confused proximity to power with partnership. She measured a person in motion against a person who had already arrived, which is the equivalent of judging a house by its framework before the walls go up. That's a mistake. It's a real one, and she's clearly living with the weight of it. But I don't need her to suffer for this story to mean something. In fact, her suffering is the part of the story I wish I could edit. Not because I want to protect her from consequences. Consequences matter, but because it was all so unnecessary. She had what she had. She chose to measure it by the wrong ruler. And she lost something real over something hollow. That's not victory. That's just a tragedy at a smaller scale. The questions I get asked most when I've told parts of this story in interviews or in conversations? How did you not get angry? How did you just walk away? How did you keep working when someone you loved told you that you weren't good enough? I'll try to answer each of them honestly. The anger question first. I did get angry. Not in the room, not in that moment, but later, alone, in my apartment, about a week after she left. It hit me while I was making dinner. Just this sudden, clean, burning rage. Not at her specifically, more at the version of myself that had spent months noticing the warning signs and choosing softness over clarity. I had seen the comparisons building. I had heard the tone shift. I had watched her come home from team dinners talking about Qley with a particular texture in her voice. And I had kept hoping it would self-correct. That was on me. The anger burned hot for about an hour. Then it passed, and I cooked my dinner. The walking away question. I walked away because the alternative was to fight for someone who had already explained, plainly, that what I had wasn't what she wanted right now. Fighting for that isn't romantic. It's just refusing to listen. I've always believed that how you end something tells you more about your character than almost anything else. Not more than how you begin it. Beginnings carry their own kind of truth, but endings are where people show their real shape. I wanted my real shape to be someone who left with integrity. The working question. This is the one I think matters most. I kept working because the work was not about her. I want to say that again with the emphasis it deserves. The work was not about her. It was never about her. It was about an idea I believed in, a problem I wanted to solve, a vision of what creative work could look like when you strip the pretense off it. Her belief or lack of belief didn't change the validity of the idea. Her comparison to Qley didn't alter the potential of what I was building. She left. The idea remained. The idea was always going to require exactly the amount of time it required. Her presence or absence didn't change that math. What did change, and I think this is the unexpected part, is what I asked of the work after she left. Before the breakup, there was a small but persistent anxiety running under everything. A need for it to succeed quickly, to prove something, to arrive at the destination fast enough to justify the decision, fast enough to hold the relationship together, fast enough to be seen as the right choice. That anxiety was making the work worse. I can see that now. It was injecting a kind of desperation into the decisions, chasing clients who weren't right, over-explaining the vision to people who weren't listening, producing things that were technically competent but emotionally empty because they came from a place of proving rather than making. After she left, the urgency of proof went with her. What replaced it was something quieter, something that felt, and I know this is going to sound like something on a motivational poster, so forgive me, like freedom. Just the freedom to make the thing the way I actually believed it should be made, without the audience of her disappointment, without the clock of her patience. Just the work. And the work, freed from the weight of what it was supposed to prove, became something different, became something real, became the thing that ended up with 2 million views at 11 at night when I wasn't trying. Ben came over the night the view count crossed 2 million. We didn't make a big deal of it. We ordered from the Thai place we'd been ordering from since college, ate on my couch, and watched something terrible on streaming that we both agreed was terrible and kept watching anyway. At some point he said, "You know what's wild? What? A year ago you were eating peanut butter sandwiches and she was telling you Qley was more successful than you." I remember. And now you've got 2 million views and she's in the comments saying she made a huge mistake. Yeah. How does that feel? I thought about it. Genuinely tried to find the right word for it. Like a closed chapter, I finally said. He nodded. Not satisfying? It's something, but it's not satisfying the way you'd expect. Because you already moved on. Because I already moved on, I confirmed. We watched another 20 minutes of the terrible show. Then Ben said quietly, "I'm proud of you, man." I looked over at him. He wasn't looking at me. He was looking at the screen, pretending he hadn't just said something genuinely emotional. "Thanks," I said. "Don't make it weird." "I'm not making it weird." Good. We watched the rest of the episode. Here is what I know now that I didn't know then. The moment she said, "He's more successful than you," that's just reality. That moment was not actually about Qley. It was about fear. Her fear. The fear of being the person who bet on the uncertain thing and was wrong. The fear of watching someone build something slow while a faster, shinier option existed nearby. The fear of patience in a world that rewards speed. She wasn't wrong that Qley had more to show for himself in that moment. That was, literally, just reality. But she was wrong about what that meant. She was wrong to treat a moment in time as a verdict on a life. She was wrong to compare a snapshot to a trajectory. That's the mistake she made. Not leaving. People leave relationships. That's their right. That's part of being human. The mistake was the reasoning. Using someone else's position as the measurement. Deciding that what she could see right now was all there was to see. You cannot measure someone who is building by the standards of someone who is already built. That's not how it works. That's never how it works. And the fact that she couldn't see that, or couldn't hold on to it even if she intellectually understood it, that was the real incompatibility. Not the income gap. Not the peanut butter sandwiches. Not the 18-hour days. The incompatibility was in the vision. She needed to already see it to believe it. I needed someone who could believe it before they could see it. Those are two fundamentally different people. We were always going to end up where we ended up. The only question was when. I haven't spoken to Brooke since that message exchange. No hostility in the silence. Just the natural space that grows between two people whose lives have genuinely moved in different directions. I heard through mutual channels that she's doing well. New team, apparently. A different role she seems to be genuinely excited about. I'm glad for that. Whatever I feel about what happened between us, I'm glad she's building something of her own. Cole, last I heard indirectly, is no longer at the firm. Moved again. Some people are always moving. Always arriving somewhere new with their reputation already attached, then departing before the full picture comes into focus. I don't say that with malice. I say it as an observation about a type. The company is different now than I dreamed it would be. Not better or worse than the dream. Just different in the way that real things are always different from imagined ones. Messier. More interesting. Harder in unexpected places and easier in places I had prepared to fight for. There are still 18-hour days sometimes. I still push too hard sometimes. I still eat bad meals when the deadline is closing. But there's a team now, and there's a vision that has found its audience, and there's a growing archive of work I'm genuinely proud of. That's not nothing. That's most things. I'm going to tell you the one thing I think actually matters. Past the drama, past the tag comment, and the 2 million views, and the breakup speech and all of it. The thing that carried me through the months when nothing was confirmed, when everything was uncertain, when the only voice telling me it was worth continuing was mine, was this. I had a clear answer to the question, why am I doing this? Not to prove her wrong. Not to be more successful than Cole. Not to arrive at a number or a title or a condo in Westfield. The answer was, because I believe this is worth making, and I am the right person to make it, and the world is better with it in it than without it. That's the answer. That's specific, that plain, that's certain. And when you have that answer, really have it, not as a slogan, but as a lived conviction, comparison doesn't land the same way. When someone says he's more successful than you, and you already know why you're doing what you're doing, the sentence doesn't stick. It just passes through. Because it's measuring you against the wrong thing. You already know what the right thing is. You're already doing it. Last week, I was at a coffee shop, working on a proposal, headphones in. A woman at the next table was on a call, trying to keep her voice low, but not quite managing it. From what I could gather, she was talking to a friend about a boyfriend, about how he had left his stable job, about how she didn't know if she could keep waiting, about someone else she kept mentioning with a particular texture in her voice. I didn't stare. I didn't say anything. I'm not the kind of person who inserts himself into strangers' conversations. But I did pull out one earbud, and I listened for a moment. Not with judgment, just with recognition. Then I put the earbud back in, opened the proposal, kept building. The notification is still there, by the way, on my phone. The original tag. I haven't deleted it. Not as a trophy. I want to be clear about that. Not to look at it on bad days and feel better about myself. I've left it there as a kind of record. A marker. This is what that moment looked like from the outside, once time had moved past it. This is what the thing that almost broke my belief in myself looked like 14 months later. Small. It looks so small from here. The comment, the tag, I made a huge mistake. All of it so small compared to what was actually being built in the dark months when it didn't look like anything yet. Small. And that's not a comfort. It's just a fact. The things that feel enormous in the moment have a way of becoming small. And the things that feel invisible, the quiet, unglamorous work of building something real, have a way of becoming everything. She said, he's more successful than you. That's just reality. I said, okay. And then I went and made a different reality.